Hey,
You
ladies
working with me?
and gentlemen, wrestling fans, welcome to the first ever episode of the People's Pro Wrestling Podcast on video. It is Mark, the fantasy puppet Pescetti, here with Kokayi. I'm not gonna say his last name. Say hey. I said, say hey, son. I don't get it. What is going on with you?
See what that was called? Hold on. Hush. This is the sign in sign language for please be quiet. What you just heard right now is the digital version of a no-sell. You did a promo, I no-sold it. And that's what's going to happen right here and right now between you and me.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's John Cena.
No.
Mr. No-Sell himself.
No.
Yes?
John Cena. Did you call me John Cena? Oh, that's horrible.
Cena.
Oh, I'm disrespected. I don't know if I can go along with this, man.
Oh, you
I'm gonna have to back out like Fozzy.
You will. You must. The people, the Marks people, demand it. And today, ladies and gentlemen, pro wrestling fans, we are going to talk about, believe it or not, WWE has, well, what we used to call a pay-per-view, a network special, coming up this Sunday. What's it called?
It's called the Tables, Ladders, and Chairs.
Oh, my. So this is the time of year when, well, you would hope that Vince McMahon was actually writing so storylines culminated and required these types of matches, much like Hell in a Cell. Oh, it's Hell in a Cell. Let's have a Hell in a Cell match. Yeah, that'll sell some pay-per-views. That'll put some buys. No. Vince McMahon, by the way, you're delusional. You need to get out of pro wrestling. You were once a genius. You are now, I don't know if you got dementia. I don't know what's going on, but dude, you need to get out of the business. So, Kokayi, let's talk about the card.
No, but
you have the card in front of you?
I do have the card in front of me. I do have a few things just like, Rachel Maddow, so that I have a sense of, security. Like, yes. So I do have the card in front of me. So
hold on. You have a sense of insecurity. I'm so sorry. Why is that?
This is a very valid sport.
It doesn't matter why that is. The Mark didn't want to know that bad. What's the first match on the card? By the way,
the first match on the card is the Viking Raiders versus we don't know who.
The Viking
because they have
Raiders.
An open challenge, and they started this gimmick again, where they just have an open challenge, a la John Cena. So apropos that you would bring him up, because I can't see him and don't really like this gimmick. This gimmick where it comes down to anybody from the back can jump on board just doesn't make any sense to me. It just comes across as a very cheap curtain jerker, which is exactly what it is. Now, rumor has it, and I don't know if they have stopped being, injured, but are the Usos about to come back? And I would like to know what you hear on the grassroots as to who could answer the call from the Viking Raiders in order to make this curtain jerker worth watching.
Well, did Jimmy and Jay get a DUI in the last few days?
Whoa, Lord have mercy. Why are you putting people's business on Front Street like that? You're supposed to have respect for the game rather than just treating people like they're trash and throwing them under the bus. Isn't that what we just saw all week long at the national level? And now you're going to do this back here on pro wrestling? This is our entertainment. This is our culture. Why are you throwing them under the bus?
You see, the Mark says this, Kokayi. The Mark knows that the Usos are so much smarter than this, and the Mark is waiting to see if they can actually step into their intelligence and raise the game. The Mark doesn't care about the game or throwing people under the bus. If they deserve to be thrown under the bus, then let them get run over. The Usos deserve to get run over. And that's the bottom line, because, well, you know the rest.
All right. So other than the Usos, seriously, bro, who other than the Usos, who else could they pull out of the bag in order to make this interesting? Because otherwise, this is a squash match, correct?
I would have said, you know, let's elevate the Street Profits. But what happened to the Street Profits this past Monday?
A squash match. So,
so
who else they got?
Exactly. Who else did they got? Why are they taking the Street Profits, which performed and have an act that could seriously get over, and just have them get squashed in a throwaway filling television time TV match?
Right.
They could have been actually promoted and utilized to their fullest potential and actually having quality matches. Kofi Kingston says hello, by the way, Brock Lesnar.
Oh my God, dude.
And by the way, Kofi Kingston is he doesn't just preach the power of positivity. He actually lives it.
You're getting a little ahead of yourself. Hold on, that's coming up. Hold on. That's a little bit later on. That's in the last third of the match. That's the last third of the card, okay? So right here, we're still with the Viking Raiders, and we don't know who's going to come out the back. All right?
Okay, so who's left?
Well, after that, hold on. After that, after we get through whatever little rubber match or squash match that they happen to do in order to try and keep people from going to get more popcorn and beer, we've got a tables match, whatever that really means, between Rusev Day and Bobby Lashley. Now, Jesus, problem with this particular storyline, whatever they want to call it, because I don't know if I call it a storyline, because I thought we were in pro wrestling, but a love triangle has always come across to me as General Hospital, and it has never been something that I truly believed when it came down to a promotion that specializes in tables, chatters, and ladders and chairs should be talking about. So give me a reason why, Mark, I should even be paying attention, if not going to the bathroom, when Rusev Day is out there going against Mr. Lashley.
Lashley. How about that? Does that help? Does that help you out at all? No. So these, can I ask you a question? Is pro wrestling professional acting?
No, that's my point. That's my
Why
point.
are we?
Soap opera acting. It's B-rated. It's below B-rated. It's zombie. It's zombie rating. Zombie rated wrestling. That's the acting level. Zombie rated wrestling.
Do you remember Saturday night's main event when
Correct. Macho Man
Saturday Night Live got out of the way for the WWF? Bobby Heenan, Hulk Hogan, the Iron Sheik. What did Bobby Heenan do? Bobbed for apples.
Oh my God. Correct.
Vince McMahon has proven time and time again, if he doesn't know what to do or he doesn't have anything particularly exciting, he loves to throw this bullshit out to us. Does anybody care about Lana? No. Is she attractive? Does she have boobs?
Like a banshee. Maybe on Raw. A banshee. It was annoying. An annoying banshee.
Can I ask you a question?
The quality of the game.
Hold on. Let me ask you another question. The very first segment that these two had when Lana and Lashley made out on stage, and Rusev is just standing there in the middle of the ring watching. What would a real man do in that situation? No.
That's a cuckold. It's a fetish from porn. Oh, that's what it was, dude. That's what I saw. It's General Hospital. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's trash. It's absolute trash. It means the writers have absolutely no ideas, and they need to rely on us, people in the grassroots who are paying attention, who know what they want and can translate that to others in ways that they can understand too and want to get over. This is absolutely ridiculous. Can we move on just a little bit? Can we move on?
Who's going to win?
But it doesn't get any better. Hold on, that's the problem.
Who's going to win?
It doesn't really get any better. The match after that, after Rusev and Bobby, the General Hospital soap opera match, we got a TLC match. Tag team for the women's championship. The Kabuki Warriors versus a slap together match, or slap together team, Charlotte and Becky.
Well, first of all, Charlotte and Becky have either been going against each other, awkwardly teaming with each other, triple threat at WrestleMania. Right now, Becky just went, 15 minutes with the Kabuki Warriors and they couldn't beat her?
I don't
Charlotte,
understand this. No, dude. I don't understand the storyline at all. Do the recap, but I don't understand the storyline at all. You're correct.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand this.
All they're doing is what the WWF, I'm sorry, the WWE loves to do, which is really diminish an act. Asuka, Kairi Sane, they have a lot of upward mobility potential. Asuka's shown that in the past. She's on fire right now. I think she's actually enjoying herself. And yet, what do? They bury them. Braun Strowman against the tag team champions. Bury the tag team champions. The Big Show against the tag team champions. Bury the tag team champions. John Cena against the tag team champions. Bury the tag team champions. Vince McMahon hates tag team wrestling. Can I just say that for the record?
Well, that's a nice sound bite. I would like to see some more evidence when it comes down to that. So I want to have a conversation about Vince McMahon and what his impact is on the current state of wrestling. But again,
didn't I not just give you a lot of evidence?
Hold on, forgive me. Hold on, bro. Forgive me. Okay, so what I saw was they did Charlotte versus the Kabuki Warriors, and they made that actually try and sell. They took time and tried to build that out. Then they had Becky versus them, same team, Kabuki Warriors, had them go. Both persons should have been decimated by the Kabuki Warriors from the get-go just because it's a handicap match, to sell the quality of a handicap match. And even though both Charlotte and Becky are main eventers when it comes down to women's wrestling, the fact that the Kabuki Warriors weren't soundly defeating them was lowering the grade of what a individual bodied wrestler or character can take when it comes to in the form of punishment. Okay, help me. Because
first of all, Kokayi, can you say Kabuki?
Can I do what? I'm muted.
Can you say Kabuki?
Kabuki?
There it is. Not Kabuki.
I've been saying it wrong the whole time?
Yes.
Is that what you just told me? I've been saying it wrong the whole time. I'm learning something.
Slap in the face.
I'm learning something.
What's going on? What's up?
Kabuki. All right, the Kabuki Warriors. Oh, God. All right. I think, okay. So right now, just to recap, Viking Raiders, trash. Tables match between Rusev and Bobby, trash.
You never told me who's going to win that match. It's critical. Who's going to win Rusev Day versus Bobby Lashley with Lana's love not at stake? Who's going to win it?
Second no sell of this match. Okay, second no sell of this show. Here goes. THCO match, trash. So when I finally get back with my Big Mac from Trump Towers, the next match out is Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy.
AKA, oh, good. Who's Buddy Murphy's girlfriend?
I don't know. I don't care. This is not General Hospital for me. This is
the blonde wrestler. Alexa Bliss.
Oh,
Alexa
really?
Bliss is Buddy Murphy's girlfriend.
Why do you have this in your mental Rolodex? Why do you have this in your head? Why?
Because from this point forward, I will now refer to him as Mr. Alexa Bliss. Now, is Mr. Alexa Bliss going to beat Aleister Black? Well, Aleister Black's been sitting all by himself in a dark room waiting for somebody to come ask him to fight. And now he finally has that. And it's going to be Mr. Alexa Bliss. And do you really think that Mr. Alexa Bliss is going to beat Aleister Black? I don't.
Okay, so the nerd in me is going to ask, why do you care about who wins and who loses? Because this is the WWE. It doesn't matter who wins and loses. Oh,
Is
come on, man.
Aleister
It's an
Black?
easy mark line on you on that front. But here goes. When it comes down to Aleister Black, hold on. When it comes down to Aleister Black, I'm seeing a waste of talent because I think he is a potential monster heel that is absolutely necessary in the promotion at the present moment in order to bring a level of believability that allows us to suspend disbelief so that we care about what in the world's going on in the ring. He has a beautiful entrance. The problem is that they don't know what to do with him. And I don't know who Buddy Murphy is. I mean, as far as the promotion with the WWE is concerned, like 3 weeks ago, they just debut or bring Aleister Black out of the dark with no backstory, with no reason, with no storyline, with no, he's just doing promos from some locker room again, and then he's coming out, but where's the cohesion? I'm lost.
Well, Mr. Alexa,
what does this match do?
well, this match should be on Monday Night Raw, and Aleister Black should quickly go over Mr. Alexa Bliss. That's the reality.
Oh.
The only reason why this match is on a pay-per-view is because they had a pay-per-view coming and they needed to put a match on it, and that's one of them. That's about as valuable as this match is. And honestly, if Mr. Alexa Bliss wins, then who does it really help? Because the person that needs to be, they both have incredible talent. Don't get me wrong. They both
True.
have incredible talent.
True.
But Buddy Murphy, I'll say his real name, is not going to get pushed as high as Aleister Black's ceiling is. Aleister Black has a much higher ceiling. In my opinion, he could be a believable, grounded Undertaker type character without all the supernatural bullshit. That's what Aleister Black could be, and he could legit put asses in the seats. But they are not booking him that way. And did you know he's European and Vince McMahon doesn't know how to book anybody who's not white American?
Well, that's another element that is deficient within the WWE talent source that they're using on HR in order to translate the product to the American public. I have full agreement with you. My main problem when it comes down to the WWE and the way they happen to be building these pay-per-views is the fact that they seem to be just putting up pay-per-views to fill in an artificial calendar. There's no need for this pay-per-view in December other than to have a pay-per-view in December because there's a subscription for $10 that everybody pays and they got to justify that $10 subscription.
Can I ask you a question? Is there somebody holding a gun to Vince McMahon's head and saying, Vince, you either keep it TLC or I'm going to pull this trigger? Nope. Nobody's doing that. Vince McMahon, Mr. Genius Creative Booker Man, has the ability to change this worthless pay-per-view's name and make it somewhat relevant. But no, this is just an insignificant stopover to Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season.
Insignificant stopover.
Insignificant stopover. I'm going to watch this insignificant stopover, but I'll tell you what, it's not because there's a single match that I'm looking forward to.
Okay, so before we get to the last three matches, before we review those, could you please tell me, is there anything, or what are you watching on the independent circuit? What are you watching other than WWE at the present moment?
Hashtag Powerr, NWA Powerr. I love the old school graphics. I love the studio 80s style wrestling format. I loved Jim Cornette on commentary, but he made a joke. But by the way, if I can just comment on that Jim Cornette thing, Court Bauer. Is Court Bauer the one that does NWA? Who's doing NWA booking? I forgot.
I don't know.
I admit Court Bauer might be
man. That's
MLW.
what you know, man. I don't know that.
Anyway, they had this on tape for weeks or even over a month or for quite a bit of time. and nobody said anything about it. It didn't capture anybody's attention. And then it made air, and Jim Cornette was the only one that really got taken down for it, even though during editing they could have taken it out, and they didn't.
Well, yeah, and there was a couple of times because they had plenty of time to take it out. It was sitting in the can for 3 weeks. And if anybody who doesn't understand what we're talking about, then you need to just catch up. And we hope you keep up, because that's the kind of thing that we're going to be talking about. It's going to be secondary. We're not trying to do any of the stuff that's ticker tape. We want to, or ticker tape. We want to just sit there and talk about the highlights of what's going on in the wrestling world and talk about building this business. Are you looking at Major League Wrestling? Are you spending any attention over there?
I do. Not as much. Lately, I don't find the shows that good. I heard Teddy Hart's leaving for backstage problems, so they're going to dismantle the Hart Foundation. I don't see Brian Pillman Jr. doing very well. I don't see Davey Boy Smith Jr., Harry Smith doing very well. I see them. I see ROH going into very troubled territory if they don't really book the talent they have at the peak of their absolute potentials to keep their momentum going.
Well, yeah, because I think ROH has basically a marketing issue. NWA is able to get on YouTube and actually
NWA is doing better than them.
Right, and because ROH is actually doing a better product when it comes down to people willing to put their bodies on the line and do entertainment and bump. NWA Powerr, I'm agreeing with you. It does do a great job of doing the throwback feel. What I'm looking for them is like to come out of you're in a hotel room, and I know you're in a hotel room. Could you please act like you're in the community, or that you're doing the old school kayfabe appeal? Like Nick Aldis has to actually really sincerely believe he's arrogant and being the national treasure, but I need to be able to see him at like the best stores, and I need to be able to see that in the newspaper, not just in and on the promotion, because that is the throwback feel. We did hear that from the Four Horsemen, from Ric Flair. We didn't see them on the regular news. It was that believable. And I want to see a little bit of that when it comes down to the NWA, because I'll believe that gimmick. It'll get over to me. When it comes down to AEW, forgive me, I'm going to say this. I think it's a little bit controversial with you. We have been watching from the beginning. I'm now going to give it a designation before we go to the end of these last 3 matches, because I think it's a nice crossover, because that's what I think we're at when it comes down to the state of pro wrestling in America. The American product is trash. AEW, sir. AEW right now, in my mind, I'm going to classify, even though they had the best episode they've had so far on network television, I'm going to call them video game wrestling. Finishers don't mean a thing. The super kick is worthless. There's 16 of them that happen every show. The watering down of big bumps is amazing. They're down to counts and spots. That's what they mean. Instead of being holy shit moments, instead of being this is wrestling and everybody clapping and being unified and then getting over 2 or 3 times a year and making real money, they are doing a watered down version that is the equivalent of a millennial jerk off. And I'm sorry to say that. I like and want them to push and do the right thing and keep advancing young talent and give people an opportunity to work. But at the present moment, I'm having a difficult time believing anybody other than Chris Jericho and Moxley. Jungle Boy is an insult to my intelligence. Luchasaur, whatever is Lucha, what the hell do you say his damn name? Luchasaurus, that guy, he actually had him eating leaves. In a promo, they had this man eating leaves, a pro wrestler, eating leaves. The last time we saw something that ridiculous, it was named Kamala. No, we're not supposed to be going backwards. This is supposed to be moving forwards. This is supposed to be believable. This is the internet. We already have reality TV, but they want to give me this trash and want me to pay for it. Jungle Boy is trash.
You don't like super
kid,
kick
I don't know if
parties?
it's a little kid, a midget, somebody who doesn't get HGH or could be rehabilitated. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's even legal. Is that legal? I know there's some shady stuff that happens in pro wrestling, but Marco, whatever it is that legal? Can you do that in pro? Can you do that? I'm amazed. I hate that gimmick. Fucking hate that Jurassic Park gimmick. It's video game stuff. I know it's supposed to be clowns, and you're supposed to fill that match, that segment, and take care of that part of the audience, the clowns. But these are Orange Cassidy is a believable clown. I won't work around Orange Cassidy, okay? But Luchasaurus, I'm gonna stop now.
I don't understand your obsession with Orange Cassidy. I think he's horrible. You marked out for him like crazy.
What? Are you kidding me?
Cassidy.
Over. Beautiful gimmick. The irony of having a fake sport and then treating it like it's a fake sport and then having the crowd go along with it. Beautiful. Anyway, last three matches on this card that's coming up in 3 days. Destruction of this business. SmackDown Tag Team Championship, and I don't even know what that means on a pay-per-view, SmackDown and Raw.
It means that whoever has it right now, which I forget, I think the New Day has it right now, are going to give it back to the Revival, but the Revival is going to give it back to the New Day either next SmackDown or a few SmackDowns from now. It's just, you know, there's no roster. There's no
More
team.
clowns. More clowns. That's what I hear. More clowns. More clowns. More clowns. Not even acrobats. More clowns. Are they going to throw out more pancakes? Pancakes.
Probably. Yeah.
Khrushchev.
And you know what?
Who has this contract?
How
did they get this contract? Who's the salesperson for this contract? Khrushchev, pancakes, pancakes, pancake.
Okay, first of all, take your meds. It's going to be okay.
My meds.
Second of all, we have a tag team division on SmackDown and Raw that is virtually non-existent. I'll recite the Street Profits. When you have talented teams, you need to make sure that you're elevating them as best as possible. One of the things that I do like about AEW is that they are actually showing the wins and losses. If they did that in the WWE, it would be kind of embarrassing. So they need to really start booking ahead and building other teams up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, so that when these matches happen, they actually matter instead of just burning through the tiny roster that they have and giving us the same matches again and again and again. And that's why nobody's looking forward to this TLC match, because it doesn't matter who wins.
Okay, so then please tell me what the impact is, since you want to go back to that, to the video game world of AEW. So you got to win, you got to lose. What does that mean? Tell me where the meaning comes from.
Everybody needs to take a page out of NXT and book sequentially. Book like matches make sense.
Hold on, time out, dude. You doing Fox News? Did you just jump? You win. We were talking about AEW.
I'm telling you,
wins and losses in AEW have an impact when it comes down to the storyline of AEW, and then you just went to NXT.
And I'm explaining it.
Oh my God, dude.
Where?
Go. I'm gonna tolerate this.
All right. Bear with me, big man.
Nah.
Here it is. I'm gonna lay it out for you so it makes perfect sense. AEW is harnessing a sense of excitement. They have the big arena. NXT doesn't have that. Take AEW and put them into the NXT environment. Take NXT and put them into the AEW environment. NXT is going to be a much higher quality show because the booking makes sense. There's actually somebody behind the booking, whereas in AEW, it's Cody Rhodes, it's Tony Khan, whoever else is in the booking team. So it's an old school booking committee. NXT is doing the same thing. Of course, Raw and SmackDown have writing teams. books, which are very different, and writers who've never wrestled or been in the wrestling industry should quite frankly ever write for professional wrestling. And I cite the last 19 years as
Right.
the reason why.
Right.
But
Plenty of evidence.
NXT is doing so many little things right that they are going on that upward trajectory. I don't know how much further AEW can go with what they're doing. Chris Jericho has become massively overexposed. I'm already getting sick and tired of his theme music because it plays so many times during a single episode. Kenny Omega was a tremendous star in New Japan. And if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know that he was ever a really big deal the way that they're booking him in AEW. Hangman Page was the first contender with Chris Jericho for the AEW title. Since then, he's been 20-20 or 50-50 booked. So there's no real upward trajectory. Pac, same thing, 50-50 booking. He beat Omega, he beat Moxley, they got their wins back. It's like nobody actually went anywhere. And then Moxley and Omega, what was the purpose of that match? That non-sanctioned hardcore match that really turned off a lot of people. It got people talking, yes, but it turned off a lot of people. And in hindsight, it wasn't necessarily a great move because do we see massive upward ticks in their ratings, in engagement? Nope. So what does that mean? It means that people aren't buying into these characters at the level that they should, but they weren't given that opportunity because Moxley, Omega, all these stars, these big stars, haven't been booked as such. The only one who has been booked as such is Cody Rhodes.
True, but
so getting back to
hold on. In defense of Cody Rhodes, he was able and has been able to translate believability at the same level of Moxley. It took cheap potato shots and him scrubbing a move on the runway with real blood and real cuts and real stitches before he's really over as a main eventer.
Well,
that's
first of
my
all,
point. Hold on, that's my point. Because I agree with everything that you said as far as your analysis, but that's my point, that they are working in AEW of reducing the quality of what they're doing inside the ring to such a level that they could get over as the opportunity maker, because I'm seeing various characters that they're using going back and forth between MLW, between NWA, and seeing them, okay? So on their program. So I want the distribution and the opportunity that they provide, because it's a quality studio that they're working from, to get over. My problem is the standard and the quality marker that they're using is such that I don't know where I am. Am I in Japan or am I in America? They'll do a high count rate that is very Japanese, and that makes Kenny Omega's environment work. But I don't know which Kenny Omega I'm doing with, because by the time he does all the hand movements and the time that it takes to do the hand movements and the power-ups that work in Japanese culture that doesn't work here, even though we do watch anime, him doing anime inside of a ring doesn't necessarily translate in timing-wise to something that I really want to watch, okay? So forgive me, because that's a nice crossover, talking about anime, talking about cartoon characters, to the second match just before the main event coming up in 2 days, and that's the Universal Championship match between The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and The Miz. First question, hold on, Mark, first question. Does the Universal, I want a question for you. First question to you on this match. First question, does the Universal Championship even mean anything this late into the 2019 storyline season?
Does a main event Universal match with The Miz in December 2019 turn you on?
Well, the whole card doesn't turn me on. I'm sad at the state of wrestling that the Vince McMahon mind has brought us.
The Miz against Bray Wyatt, because it's not The Fiend, it's Bray Wyatt, which is going to make it, interesting to see if they even know what they're booking or if they just harm the Fiend Bray Wyatt character.
How did they finish this match?
And I don't trust
Why
them.
isn't this match over in 2 minutes? Why is this not match?
Well, first of all, they had to take Daniel Bryan out of the equation. He just lost at Survivor Series. Having them in another match at TLC is just a big throwaway. So they put The Miz into it, and they tried to add some intrigue by taking the mask off for this match and having it just be plain old Bray Wyatt instead of The Fiend. And that's supposedly the big selling point. I don't think they can pull it off. I think it's a dumb mistake. I think it's going to be a boring match. And what does the Universal title mean right now? 0.
I don't even know what kind of spots they can use in order to make it even interesting. So he's supposed to, okay, because Bray Wyatt isn't going to do no sell like the Fiend.
He's probably going to be mortal, because when he takes the Fiend mask off, I think that's the story they're going to tell, that he's just a regular person when he's Bray Wyatt, but when he's the Fiend, he no sells.
So the Miz is going to whoop his tail?
That's what I'm worried.
Which is the watering down that you were talking about of the character, because Correct. They got to do the contrast like Shazam.
And that takes away my suspension of disbelief over the Fiend. Because if it's the mask that makes him powerful, then we're getting into 7-8-year-old superpower territory that just kind of ruins the whole thing for me, quite honestly. Now, I'm fine with somebody, getting themselves into a state of mind where they don't feel pain and they no sell, but tell that story in a way that makes sense. By having Bray Wyatt take the mask off and go against upper mid-carder in The Miz, and in upper mid-carder, I say at the very best, he's,
at the very
third, fourth down from the top, and it's a very shallow roster, and so that's not saying much about him. So if he actually dominates the match at all, or dominates Bray Wyatt at all, they are diminishing the quality or the value of the Fiend, and that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help anybody.
So how would you book Aleister Black going up against the Fiend? Because to me, that's a much more interesting and believable character matchup than him going up against the Miz, which is like what you were saying, a mid-card acrobat instead of another monster character.
I could see a WrestleMania program this year between Aleister Black and the Fiend, even though they're on separate brands. But I don't think they're going to build Aleister Black up to that level to have him be a credible, non-superpower, but still mysterious, higher power type character. If they were able to take his dark side, how he just sits up, and then his stance, and he looks big, and he's got a very credible big man moveset, but he also moves at, cruiserweight speed. I think a match with him and the Fiend, if he was booked as that character and really nurtured, Drew McIntyre could be that as well. And
he could be another monster character. You're right. He could be another monster character.
I think Drew McIntyre, I actually brought this up with Wade Keller on a Raw post show on PW Torch, that I compared Drew McIntyre of today, his heel character of today, to that of Hulk Hogan in the AWA before Hulkamania started getting its natural grassroots movement. I think that Drew McIntyre has that level of superstardom in him, which is why him not having an actual program with anybody, and I include the time that he spent with Shane McMahon as his heavy, he has not had a significant program. How many has he even had this year? I can't even think.
Okay, so help me out. Because when it comes down to Fiend, Alexander, and Drew McIntosh, rate the, McIntyre. Rate them real quick, man, when it comes down to reinvention factor. Who has the most pliable or fluid character that could potentially get over before WrestleMania, so that WrestleMania sells out and we actually care what's going on in WrestleMania, and we don't have the duds that are going on at the present moment.
Well, last WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre went against Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns easily beat him. So I think that was Drew McIntyre's biggest significant program this year. And I would love to see him get built up and destroy Roman Reigns in a rematch. If they're not going to do that, I would keep those two as far apart from each other as possible, and they're on different brands anyways. On Raw, because Seth Rollins just turned heel and the babyface side is really depleted, I would push McIntyre heavy as a heel and turn face at WrestleMania winning a title. That's how highly I think of Drew McIntyre, and that's how quickly I think he could get over, starting with a Royal Rumble win.
Okay, so Clicker versus Click is OC versus AOP, augmented by Seth. I could see those running the streets. But still, give me Alistair. What's the particular projection that you could do with him and his reinvention factor? Because it seems that what he did in NXT, which is still pliable in NXT, hasn't been utilized properly in the main roster level. So how would you use him in a stadium environment rather than just necessarily in the room, in the ring, the square circle, in order to get his character over? Because what we got, realistically, is a lot of room between now and WrestleMania.
He doesn't need to be reinvented. When Paul Heyman started getting his fingerprints on him a little bit, we were seeing a little bit of what Aleister Black could be. I even really enjoyed his run with Ricochet as a tag team. You know, he was getting over. And Ricochet got heat from Aleister Black, good heat, and Aleister Black got a good rub from Ricochet, making him a little bit more accessible. However, Aleister Black needs to be built up as, whether it's a baby face or a heel, he's badass. And that's his superpower. It's not that he has superpowers, but he is just presented as a badass who loves the fight, and I'm not ripping off Fit Finlay.
Okay. All right. So last match for the card on Sunday, which, I mean, good God Almighty. I mean, there's a lot being asked for right here. It's main event is Roman Reigns versus King Corbin.
So
why are we not asleep, man?
So here we have an angle that's predicated by dog food and the big dog.
Dude, I thought that was so collegiate. That was so college prankish. It was horrible. Like, this is what you come up with? How much money you paying people in the back? Are they on meth? Are they on amphetamines? Are they on caffeine? Have they not slept in the last week? Are they on tired because they've been on airplanes and in Motel 6 and they've been driving all night long or something? This is the best that they could come up with to put dog food on Roman Reigns? That was horrible to watch. So you please, how do they resurrect this match? How do they resurrect this match? How do they resurrect this storyline? What do they do, or what are they not doing right, to the point where because this match is so bad, the question I have for you is, how do they resurrect Roman Reigns and make him believable again? And what the fuck do they really do with King Corbin so that this isn't a stale gimmick that they just passed over from Elias and gave to King Corbin?
All right, so first of all, King gimmick belonged to Harley Race, Jerry Lawler, and I give a nod to Macho King. I would stop it right there. The King gimmick is dead. The King gimmick is embarrassing. The King gimmick makes people go, what? Turn that channel. Of course, it's an old TV with a knob. But that's what the King gimmick does in 2019 going into 2020. I am not saying that Baron Corbin should be fired, but he is not a main eventer. He doesn't have the moveset. I know Vince McMahon really loves those big guys, but Baron Corbin is not at that level. And it's such a sad story. We have Miz. We have King Corbin in the semi and main event of a big WWE show at the end of 2019. What is wrong with this picture?
A lot.
Why would anybody care?
True. So, do some more fantasy booking with me, because we do have a free agent. His name is the man formerly known as Luke Harper. Where do you put him in the various wrestling universes? Do you send him to Major League Wrestling, where he actually can learn how to, frankly, wrestle, even though I don't know if Fatu is going to be able to help him on that front. I do think low-key would help him be able to get over and be reliable, or as well as believable. Or do you send him to AEW? Do you try and put him in NWA and have him go over the basics again? What do you do with him?
I put him in New Japan in a Bruiser Brody type role. I think he is an absolute ring general. I think he is an untapped talent whose glass ceiling is so much higher than Vince McMahon would have ever booked him. I think he should spend a year in New Japan. I think he should get pushed to a top level in New Japan. And then I want to see him in AEW. Maybe after he gets started in New Japan like Moxley did, maybe he does both simultaneously if they let him have that much creative and contract freedom, which would be awesome, because I think if he went to AEW before spending a year in New Japan, I think letting him work New Japan while working AEW is going to make him more of an asset, because he's going to take the gloves off, the shackles off, and he's going to show the wrestling world what he was capable all this time, because he has passion, and I really want to see what he can do with it without Vince McMahon, who, like I said, should be fired. He should have been fired just for the dog food segment on SmackDown this past Friday. I can only imagine what Fox execs are thinking about paying $1 billion for this crap. I guarantee you they were hoping for a lot more than the big dog. This is King Corbin. And dog food selling a pay-per-view? How can you make a pay-per-view matter less? So,
all right. So how do you reinvent? Pardon self. So how do you reinvent Corbin? How do you use him? How do you reinvent Roman Reigns? How do you use him?
Well, I would send Corbin down the card, and I would have him be Baron Corbin, and I would give him more freedom in his promos, because I think he's a better promo than the writers. Naturally, I think he has that asshole-ish nature, that douchebag nature, where if he's himself with the volume turned up, as Steve Austin would say, I think he would get over. And I think he could build on that. But putting any type of cartoonish gimmick on him when he's already over the top and under-talented and overutilized and has been exposed, like when he went against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch with Lacey Evans. I mean, that was horrible. And he was in another main event earlier this year with Seth Rollins, and now he's with Roman Reigns. You can just tell Vince McMahon has a hard-on for this guy. Yeah, he's big, he's tall. he cut off that hair, so now he's, more attractive. He's great. He's great. But what do we hear?
All right, I can hear that. So here's what, off the top of the dome, I think I would do with him, because I think he can be resurrected, even though he has a very limited talent and skill set, like you were saying. Okay, so what I want to do is play him off just one gimmick, just like 911. And I'd want him to do his asshole heel gimmick and say that this isn't my ring. This entire stadium is mine. And I get to use this stadium because I'm the king any which way I want. So then he riffs off a New Jack. And whenever he does a match, especially if it's a pay-per-view match, he's taking you off and he's going to throw you off of something, a height. And what's he trying to do? I'm trying to give you a name. I'm trying to help you by breaking your back. You join this list of people that I put out of wrestling. And I think that heel at the mid-card level will get over. And I'd actually watch The Miz fall 100 feet before I would The Fiend versus The Miz or anything else like that. And this match shouldn't even be on the main event. It should be mid-card, like you were saying. It should be higher than the Intercontinental. I have absolutely no idea how to resurrect Roman Reigns because I think he's such a limited character that if it wasn't for the artificial push and him being forced down our throats, we really wouldn't care. I'd rather have Keith Lee going against King Corbin if we're going to do any kind of push and have any kind of heat toward the end of this kind of match, or end of this kind of card, since they're just trying to do it as a filler card and have a couple of NXT other people jump on board and make it interesting by doing interference.
Keith Lee is going to be a main eventer. Vince McMahon's going to love him. I see nothing but good things for him, whether he's on NXT, Raw, or SmackDown. Roman Reigns, what you described for Baron Corbin, to me, is way more appropriate for Roman Reigns to play a 911 ECW type character because he has so few moves. He has the spear, he has the Superman punch, he has the drive-by. Can you think of any else?
Well, okay, touche, sir, touche. And I guess that would be a way to try and renovate him because he has the charisma, but he does. They've done everything they can do with that cat.
No, they haven't. Roman Reigns needs to be heel. He needs to become a seasoned heel. The problem is that should have happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago against Daniel Bryan. But they were too afraid to pull that trigger because Vince McMahon was so convinced Roman Reigns was the next big thing. He was wrong. Now, the problem now is Roman Reigns is not at the peak of his heat. Whatever heat he was getting, he's getting minimal heat. He's not getting booed like he was, but he's also not getting cheered heavily. So he's kind of been in a place of indifference. So he needs to get hot again. They need to encourage the crowd to react however it is they're going to react. And then he needs to turn heel against The Rock.
I'd believe that. Yeah, I would. You're right. If he went heel against The Rock and The Rock came back to whoop his tail a couple of times on Raw, I'd believe it. If he took time out of his schedule to come over and say, I got to take care of some family business. This is ridiculous. Do you know who you hit? Do you understand? Respect your elders. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Now,
that would be a program that would ignite the industry.
So speak to that just a little bit, because I think that becomes crucial as we move forward to try and growing the national audience. What does it take in order to keeping the fable to kick in 2019 so that we're watching, because there's heat. Like when Moxley came over to the Lion Tamer at the beginning and the curtain jerker for AEW, I was watching.
Yep.
I actually saw that. What does it take?
That history's already answered that question. I want you to think back to the Monday Night Wars when Raw was getting absolutely destroyed. And Hall and Nash had defected. The NWO is kicking their butts in the ratings. Nitro's kicking their butts in the ratings. What did Vince McMahon do? He took a risk on Stone Cold Steve Austin. He started pushing him and started laying the groundwork. He let him be who he was. Because Steve heard Jake Roberts say some sort of biblical reference, he had an off-the-cuff aha moment, creative genius moment, where he came up with Austin 316, says, I just whooped your ass.
Yeah, that was Jake the Snake Roberts. He was doing the 316 because he was doing the Christian ethic because of his crack addiction. So that was real stuff. That's what I'm saying. So there's enough what was happening in real life to which they used in order for us to believe what they were saying. Right now, we know the game is exposed.
No. They got behind somebody. Because before that, they weren't really super behind anybody. Right now, they're not behind anybody. And here's the thing. I don't disagree with Vince McMahon, actually. I think Roman Reigns could be the next Steve Austin-esque drop. Why? Because if you turn him heel and you let him unleash and you let the crowd freely boo him, I think he would be the Rock in the corporation, and I think it would make him a top draw babyface 3-4 years down the road. 100%.
The man does
absolutely.
hold on, dude. I don't understand this. The man does 8 Superman punches in a match. He does 4 spears. He doesn't do anything else. He doesn't do a sunset flip. We're now to the point where it's worse than WrestleMania versus a Goldberg-esque limitation of moves, to the point where what storyline or what cracking in our view of him that's going to allow him to be able to expand his move base to the point where he's interesting again. Because they've tried the different, hold on. They've tried the different emotional fulcrums. They've got people fall and hurt him by putting a large furniture from within the stadium on him, and that went absolutely nowhere. That match was sucked. The storyline sucked. So what's this?
Because everybody wanted Roman Reigns
that you think
to be
is coming
a
off
heel.
Of just pure charisma? I didn't hear the word you just said.
Everybody wanted Roman Reigns to be a heel. Nobody wanted Roman Reigns to be a babyface. And Vince McMahon was too stubborn to turn him. After the WrestleMania where he beat Undertaker, and he had the microphone in his hand for 8 minutes, and the crowd wouldn't let him speak. If he turned heel right then, he could have made big business. But they were going against what the crowd wanted. When Seth Rollins came back, previously being a heel, came back, and the crowd erupted for him. And they were like getting a taste of babyface Seth Rollins. They were all in, but then as Seth Rollins, and it killed his push. And he started getting back when he was Intercontinental Champion, and then they put the strap on him, and now he's Roman Reigns version 2.0. The crowd rejected him. Now they did the right thing and they turned him heel. But what faces does he have to work against? The roster is so depleted. So if Roman Reigns was turned heel, yes, I stand behind it 100%. I think he sucks as a babyface. But if you take the same moveset and you let the crowd boo him and you let him make the crowd hate him, I think that it would make money if there were some real baby faces to go against them.
All right. So who isn't on this card that should be on this card? Last question, and let's close this shop. Let's go home.
Daniel Bryan should be champion. They need to get out of the way and give him the monster push that he has deserved so many times over the years. He's not getting any younger. I say give him the Royal Rumble win. Let him win at WrestleMania. Let 2020 be the year of Daniel Bryan. and see what he can do, and book him seriously, credibly, at, you know, like the ROH Daniel Bryan Danielson. Book him credibly against the likes of Brock Lesnar. Book him credibly against all the big wrestlers, and make him the wrestling technician. A little bit of Bret Hart, a little bit of, you know, well, Shawn Michaels, you know, some brashness, some over-the-topism and confidence in who he is, and not so, oh, golly gee willikers, or I'm mentally disturbed, Daniel Bryan. Just let him go. If they don't do it now, I think they'll miss the boat on ever being able to do it, and I think that's going to be a crime against wrestling. So absolutely, Daniel Bryan should have been getting ready for a major monster push come WrestleMania season at the Royal Rumble. That is what's missing from this card, as well as anything relevant.
I hear that. Okay, so here would be my take. When it comes down to Viking Raiders, the only way that I think that would cause this card in order to have some kind of electrical spark is if they pulled up the Rock and Roll Express to come out of that backyard. When it comes down to Rusev and Bobby, I want to see Ricochet come in and interfere, and if they're going to rock a love triangle, have him be the next person that Lana is interacting with and breaks both Bobby and Rusev's hearts. Charlotte and Becky versus the Kabuki, how do you say their name?
Kabuki
Warriors. The Kabuki Warriors is, I don't know how to say that match. I think that match is trash. I think it's filler. I don't think they know what to do with Becky, and it's just nothing you can do. When it comes down to Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy, I think the match can be salvaged if they let a tone change and Aleister Black go completely off on Buddy, and the level of violence remind us of Mankind. The rest of the card, I think, is just absolute fucking bullshit. And there ain't nothing you can do because it really is a Raw caliber show that they're trying to sell to us as a pay-per-view. I think that Roman Reigns is washed up, and your enthusiasm for him is absolutely misplaced. And Corbin can be rehabilitated, but I'm going to need him to do some real work. And I would put him up against Cesaro and have them do a series that ended in a cage match that actually meant something for the Intercontinental Championship. And that's about all I got to say about that. And I'm about done, because we're about to pay about, what, 3 hours? It's going to take 3 hours of our life for this, to watch this event? 3 hours of our lives? Right?
4.
It's a 4-hour event for 7 matches? Is that what you just told me?
Hey,
really?
They got to get their viewer time in. That's a big metric for their stockholders.
Oh, my God, dude.
Don't
And they have all the money in the world, Hollywood studio, promotion, graphic artists. They got...
Vince McMahon needs to be fired. Did I say that yet?
Well, look, I want to impeach the motherfucker, but you didn't want to have that show. That's what I want to have a conversation about. I want to bring in the world of pro wrestling needs to bring impeachment articles against Vince McMahon and inspire that cat to retire so that we can save pro wrestling and keep it the American institution of equality and unity that it's been since it came on television in 1952.
Man,
that's all I got to say about that.
I can only imagine what would happen if Vince McMahon booked you. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the People's, and the mark means the People's Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you smell what the mark is, smoking.